in the dirty South. We're in Georgia. And it's fate would have it, today is 6 years, the 6-year anniversary that Michael proposed to me. And we are literally just down the street from where we first met at the Pilot truck stop. Where was that town? That was in Temple, Georgia. Right?
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm going to tell you the story of how we got engaged. Let me get to the truck where it's not so loud. And how are we celebrating this momentous day? We're sharing a little cup of ice cream together. So Michael doesn't really want me to tell the story. He thinks it's embarrassing. But I think it's a really sweet story. So let me tell you about how Michael and I met first. One day I was perusing through Facebook and I get a friend request from a Michael Snelling. And I called my friend because I see we have mutual friends. So I called my friend Samantha, who, rest in peace, she went over the Rainbow Bridge last fall. Anyway, I called my friend Samantha and I said, "Who's this Michael Snelling guy?" And she says, "Oh," I say, "He sent me a friend request. Is he a good dude?" Or is he just a scammer? And she goes, "Oh no, he's a real deal, Ashley." And I tell you what, Ashley, you need to think about having a relationship with this guy. He's a good guy. He's one of those rare ones that comes around long, takes, what is that word? He's one of the rare ones. He's one of the good ones. So I said, "Well, how do you know him?" She goes, "Oh, he's going to be our neighbor. He bought the land right next door to us." And anyway, he's a really good guy, and he treats his women like queens. And I said, "Okay, I'll answer his friend request." So I went ahead and responded and said yes to our friend request. And he was one of those weirdos where you'd post something on Facebook, and he'd send you a private message about it. He wouldn't comment under the post. He'd send you a private message. Anyway, so I didn't really talk to him too much in the beginning. But he had a long line of women coming after him. So he didn't spend too much time talking to me in the beginning. And then I was at a low point in my life too. I wasn't really looking for a relationship. I wasn't really looking for anything. I just was coming to the realization that I'm 40 years old and I couldn't make it on my own without, this was when the end of the Obama years, when the economy was kind of rocky. So I went on back on the road, and I was teamed up with a buddy of mine, Tom. And one day, out of the blue, he texted me, and I just started talking to him. And we had a big old long conversation where we ended up talking the whole night. And it was like we started talking to each other every day after that. And then he started saying stuff like, "Well, I've got 5 acres in Meriwether County, Georgia, and I'm going to build a house out there. I'm going to put a double wide out there. And, since we'll be teamed up, because we're going to team up and we're going to be running a team together, you might as well just be my roommate." It really is a funny story. And then he started saying, "Well, since you're going to be my roommate," and this was conversation over time. This wasn't just like a one conversation thing. So first it was, we're going to be teaming together. And then it was, we're going to be roommates. And then after time, "Well, since we're going to be roommates and we get along so well, you might as well be my beautiful wife." And ever since then, did my fiance. He was telling, we hadn't even met face to face yet. And he's telling everybody, "Oh, my fiance this, my fiance that." He'd be on the phone with me, and he'd be talking to a buddy of his over there at the other company he started out with, And he'd be like, well, my fiance seems to think this or that. So he was telling everybody I was his fiance. And we ain't even met yet. And I'm kind of like charmed by this guy at this point. And the spell is starting to stir. And he'd say, okay, I love you. Have a good night. And I'm just like, I can't tell him I love him. I ain't even never met the guy. Any rate, then Tom and his wife, basically, Tom's wife decided she wanted to go back on the road and team with her husband. And that meant I was going to be out. So, okay, fine. And I told Michael, I said, man, I don't like this at all. He told me that I wouldn't have to go solo, that he was going to keep me on the truck. But then, the wife wants in. Obviously, I can't fault him for that. So I'm just going to be out solo. And he goes, well, I'll team up with you. And let me tell you what, this man had it all worked out. He had it all worked out. He was like, he says, he called Prime. I was driving for Prime at the time. He calls up Prime and gets placed on my truck. Prime didn't even call me to verify if this was a real deal. He could have been Joe Blow, some crazy dude that seen me in a truck stop. But Prime already had me routed back to the yard to do some training classes because he hadn't been solo 6 months yet. And they required some sort of like a refresher trainer thing. So I had to be his trainer. And I was like, Lord Jesus, please, God, if this is going to really happen, before he gets on my truck, I really need to meet him face to face. And I'm telling you what, like a green light happened. That prayer was answered. The very next load we had went to, all right, my microphone died, so I'm going to have to finish it out this way. So my prayer was answered. The very next load I had went right through his hometown, and I got to meet him face to face. So that gave me a peace of mind knowing that he was not going to be some crazy psycho killer. I got a good vibe for him, and my emotional baggage walls didn't go up when I met him. So I thought, okay. And everything that kept happening in my head was, he's a good man and he's going to treat you like a queen. Everything that Samantha had told me kept popping in my head. So he gets on the truck. A week later, he's on the truck. I did my training. I got back to the yard. I did my training classes, and he was already in Missouri when I was going through training classes, going through his own orientation. And any rate, so he was on the truck, and every single day he's telling me, "You gonna be my beautiful wife. You gonna be my beautiful wife." And every single time my response would be, "Well, I ain't gonna be your beautiful wife until you properly propose to me." And so finally, then one day we were on home time. We had a little camper up there in Warsaw, Missouri that we were living in, and we were getting ready to go back on the road. And he had his car parked right next to my car, and I was in the back seat of my car pulling things out and getting things organized and together to go put it in the duffel bag, put it out there on the truck so we could get going on our next load. And I turned around, he had a ring holding up, and he's like, "Will you marry me?" And I started crying, and I was like, "Yeah, I'll marry you." And he said, "Now I'm gonna warn you, that wasn't a very expensive ring." And I was like, that's okay, I love this ring, it's okay, I don't need a lot. Well, let me just tell you how not expensive that ring was. It was not even 3 days later, it was turning my finger green. And I think about 2 weeks later, it had lost all of its silver polish, and it was just now a copper ring. And my whole finger was green. And he'd get so embarrassed by that. And he finally took the ring away from me. And but at any rate, that's how we got engaged. And yeah, so the rest is history. And you can watch the wedding video that my sister and her husband made for us. It's already in the YouTube videos. You just gotta scroll back a little bit and you'll be able to see it. Anyway, happy anniversary, baby. I do love you. And I hope that I make you happy every day of your life. Oh, he ain't got to say nothing to that. I know I'm a handful, and I know I'm a headache, but so is he. I love you, babe. Until next time, Toodles, y'all.